All right, call the meeting to order at 6:30 and a half. 5:30, that's right. Yeah. I was wishful thinking. Adjustments to the agenda? I don't believe we have any. You know of any?
Nope.
Any? No. Then I would accept a motion to accept the minutes of April 13th.
We'll make a motion to accept the minutes of April 13th, 2016, as presented. If nobody has any corrections.
No, I'll second that. No, I have no.
Okay.
It's great.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes of April 13th as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so, new business. Appointment to the Conservation Commission.
You know me, Ann Hill.
I do.
And I'm here with Hannah Schlansker, who has agreed.
Who I know.
You knew?
She's my neighbor.
Oh, good. She said she was on Tavern Hill. Well, that's right, yeah. So anyway, she's agreed to be on the Conservation Commission. She is finishing up a master's degree in environmental studies at Antioch. So she'll be coming to meetings, but not totally available for a little while longer, but then we really hope to put her to work. And she also is very up to speed on computer science skills, and including putting GPS points on a map, which could be very handy, and we're very pleased to have her on board if you will approve her.
Sounds a little overqualified to me.
Let's see, I may come to the meeting, okay. I just had a note here from Cynthia that she was thinking there was gonna be a letter or email from you.
I think
expressing
usually I
interest.
was the one who used to send the emails to Cynthia, giving a little background and saying that they wanted to join. And,
Okay, but she says also, I
and
have
you
not
did,
received
and then I
that.
thought Hannah was going to do it. Did you send some?
I did send.
Oh, you did?
No, but maybe.
Well, but she also says they may come to the meeting, if not, we can table it, but I think we're probably all pretty comfortable knowing that you're
Yeah.
qualified.
We had a technological glitch was all.
There you go.
Yeah.
She can take
She
care of
can
it.
fix that.
Hopefully not. But.
All right, I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I would certainly make a motion that we appoint Hannah, you'll have to excuse me, I'm Schlansker?
Yes.
Okay. To the Conservation Board Commission.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Hannah Schlensker to the Conservation Commission. If there's no further discussion, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep, that's great.
Thank
Good.
you very much.
Thank you.
Aboard.
Pretty
Get to
painful
work.
process.
That's a good, tough crowd. Yeah, they're very funny.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah.
Come with some more difficult questions for us.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you again.
All right.
How you doing?
Mowing bid. So you guys each received copies of the mowing, well, you received 2 bids, is that right?
Two bids on the
came-
email.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then there was a 3rd bid also, but it was
We set it aside because it was
40%
considerably
higher, yeah,
Yes.
than either of the others, so. And I sat in on the initial part of the meeting to open the bids, at which Betsy and Kathleen were both also present, and then they, after we'd sort of done the points of order type of stuff, they went into deliberative session to discuss and decide. So if you want to, I was unable to open your attachment, so I have not actually seen the,
Oh, okay, well, and I didn't
Proposed.
actually print out what I emailed. Did anybody else get it?
I read it on my computer.
Okay, but didn't print it out?
No.
So because I'm just gonna I'm going by my our scribbles from the other day. But essentially what we did was take the numbers. So first of all, Jesse Amadon did not bid on the mowing of the town properties, only on the cemeteries. And for some reason, unbeknownst to us, he did not, when he filled out his bid sheet, he did not go by the number of bids, by number of mowings that were on the bid form. And maybe it's because he actually does those cemeteries and thought that those weren't accurate numbers and put in his own numbers. So it kind of skewed his bid. So what Kathleen and I did was we took his price per mowings and
I see.
translated that did the math and worked it out so that we have the same number of the numbers for the same number of mowings as the bid sheet. So,
So that was a question I had. So you, as far as the number of mowings, you had given them.
well, I don't know, I think Cynthia made out this bid form, and I don't know that we had any input into the number of mowings unless it was an average that I don't know how she actually came up with those numbers.
I can tell you that she took those from something that Kathleen gave her a couple years ago, she said.
That's right, that's what she said.
So
Okay.
it was, and it varies from year to year depending on the weather, whether it's wet or dry, as actually stated in the, on the bid sheet. So whether that was an average from that particular year or, so what we did was we took Jesse's price per mowing and converted it into the same number of mowings as the other two bids that were submitted. And then, because Jesse currently mows all the cemeteries except Mount Pleasant, and Eric mows Mount Pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So we took all the cemeteries, pulled Mount Pleasant out. Once we did changed the numbers around, we pulled Mount Pleasant out and we looked at the difference between Jesse and Eric's numbers for mowing everything except Mount Pleasant. And the difference between the two was $360. Jesse's number was $360 more than Eric's number. Eric's number for Mount Pleasant was $1,000 more than Jesse's number. And then there's the cleanups, which I think were their numbers actually in the end were very similar. So our recommendation based on the numbers that we came up with was that given that Jesse has 18 years of experience mowing the cemeteries, and the cemeteries being sort of a special caretaking situation, we thought that his experience in those cemeteries deserved consideration, serious consideration, and that the $360 difference between his and Eric's price for those, four cemeteries was negligible based on his experience and what we consider fine care that he takes of those cemeteries. So our recommendation was essentially to leave things just the way they are, to continue to having Jesse mow Old North, West Hill, East Putney, and Maple Grove, and to have Eric mow Mount Pleasant, as they have been doing, just to continue.
Ask you, are both parties amenable to that concept?
We haven't
You
spoken with any
run that by them,
of them on that. I would assume
comfortable with
that.
pricing if they.
Well, I would like to point out, one, that it's frustrating to me that we've had this discussion several years running and had the same, and I don't think you've been involved in that, Betsy, so this is not, a frustration with you, but this discussion has gone and on, and one of the things that we've been trying to do is to package this in a way so that we get a discount based on one person doing a significant amount of the mowing. We're now taking a bid that we sent out with very specific directions and altering the, basically changing the game. And I find it frustrating that we're having to do this again. Honestly, we've done this several years. I also, Eric's numbers are based on the bid for the number 3 bid, which is all of them. His numbers are based on doing all of those, and his numbers are gonna change pretty significantly if he is not granted the whole bid. Is he gonna be willing to drop those and still keep his discounted price on everything else? In my opinion, he shouldn't, which means we're talking a pretty significant chunk of change. We can do the math on that if we want to. Why don't I do that so we have those numbers? But as it is now, it's a $360 difference, as you said. But the difference, if Eric were to not give us the discount that he offered on doing all of these properties, would be 4
What do we figure it is, 5?
plus 588 plus 825 plus 630 plus 420 equals 2958. So, let's see, I've got that here. 2958. The difference on this would be 5420 minus 5264 equals 156. So plus 252 equals 408. So that would be a $408 difference if you were not to allow us that discount, just doing Mount Pleasant and the town properties. So if you add that to the 360 plus 360 equals $768, which
Well,
is,
isn't that... Okay.
I can run through how that
Okay.
was arrived at if you want me to. There's a difference. Mount Pleasant goes from, if he was to do it individually, he had a number of $5,420. If he were to do the whole thing, it's $5,264 as opposed to $5,420. And then each of the town properties drops by a certain percentage. The total difference between those on the town properties is $252, and on the Mount Pleasant is $156. So we're looking at $768, which, in the overall scheme of things is not a tremendous amount of money, but it is roughly 8% of the bid. That's a significant amount of money when you're looking at a bid of this scale. 8% is a sizable difference. I'm not sure what the legalities are of us awarding a contract based on your recommendation if we don't agree with it, which I don't agree with it, and I'll state that clearly. I would like to take the time to explore the legalities of that, because I would like to accept your recommendation, but I don't think it's fair to send out a bid, accept the bids, change the game, and expect people to play by the same rules. So, again, I'm frustrated by that. So, it would be my recommendation that we table this until we can find out the legalities of whether we are required to accept that bid, because in fiduciary responsibility, I have to say, deciding to up it by $768 just because, Eric does this professionally also. He's done a beautiful job on Mount Pleasant. I have nothing against Jesse. I would have been happy if Jesse had presented a bid for the whole thing as it was requested, but he didn't do that. I'm assuming that means he doesn't want to do that. And the whole idea is to have some savings by consolidating this into a thing. That's our idea, or our town manager's idea, and that's how it's been presented to us.
And I would just say, whenever that meeting was that we agreed to go ahead and put this out to bid, it was my understanding that as a cemetery commission, we were not obligated to
Accept any of the bids?
to accept any
No.
of the bids, and that
You are not.
we had the right to continue doing things the way we had been doing them, and that we agreed to go through the exercise to see what the results were, but that we are not necessarily obligated.
That is correct, right. And you have obviously chosen not to do that. I think the math that was presented was, and by nobody's fault, was not probably correct, because I would, again, think that Eric is not likely to offer us that discount if we're not offering him the job that was laid out in the bid. I don't know. We could talk to him. We could try and do that. No, you're definitely not obligated to do that. My question is whether we're obligated to accept your recommendation when, and I haven't, nobody else has weighed in on it, but I personally don't agree that this is the right way to do it, because it's costing us $768 more, I'm assuming, based
on these numbers.
Exactly. And I have a hard time justifying that, so that we stay with a system that we've been doing that has been fine, but the whole idea is to save money. So I think we're going to get equal quality either way. I'm not concerned that Eric is going to do a poor job on the other cemeteries for any reason. So I don't know. I guess I'm at a little bit of a loss as to what to do here. So if anybody else wants to weigh in, please go ahead.
What I was curious about when I looked at it is, that Jesse hadn't put anything in for the town portion. I guess my question is, did he understand and know did he understand why this was being done? He may not have understood necessarily that the town, and this is where I get confused, whether or not the town was looking to save money by consolidating all this stuff. So, it might not have dawned on him. And that's what I don't know. And this was the bid that went out? Because it seems interesting that he wouldn't, unless he...
Without clearly stating that he was
Not
was
interested.
not
Yeah.
interested.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, by the strictest of rules, he, did not submit a proper bid.
I brought that up in our meeting also. I
guess, I'm sort of inclined to, well, first of all, this is a timely issue. It's time to.
It is a timely
time to
issue.
mow, and
Yeah.
so we're going to need to move ahead
Yeah.
fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I guess, if we chose to, we could simply present this to both parties, some kind of, and say, look, to McGowan, are you willing to continue with the discounted prices that you've offered for the services you're running? He's looking at it, if you include the town and Mount Pleasant, that's still a fairly substantial project.
Which is,
for
I think,
him.
he's been doing he's been
Right.
doing the town.
But, which
if I-
Mostly not. No.
Oh, mostly not?
If you stick mostly the town, the highway.
Well, let me just finish this
Yeah,
thought. If he's
yeah.
unwilling to, offer that, a somewhat discounted price, minus these other cemeteries, I guess it's worth asking, I don't know, otherwise we go back to zero.
Yeah.
And again, there's the time factor.
Yeah, I agree.
In the season, so, I mean, I just think that, I understand your frustration with this, but I think, you know, maybe we just have to kind of work.
And maybe Jesse would be willing to offer, I mean, we could offer him the same, the ability to,
Well,
Take
I
that
think it's fairly
380.
clear that he's not interested in undertaking that, and I would take Josh's point that we were really trying to put this as a single package out there in an attempt to reduce the cost for the town. So, I mean, we've got to really take that into account,
Yeah.
as do the parties bidding on this.
I think the idea was that they could bid on either or both. And if, and it might be a better price coming in
If it
as
was both, yes,
Okay.
that's true. Yep, you're right. So he presumably opted on that. I guess let's see, we're asking the bid for the mowing of just town properties, a bid for mowing of just cemeteries, and a combined bid for both town properties and cemeteries. It is in the best interest of the town, we may award different packets to different contractors, which is what.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting when and this is because I guess I didn't fully understand this part, but as I looked at these, what I thought was interesting is that the things that Jesse currently mows, the reason he put the number of mowings at higher is because he's familiar with those
Well,
properties.
we-
And then
we-
you notice that Eric, does it say 10 on this? I guess it does.
Mount Pleasant, yeah, they both did Mount Pleasant.
And I guess that I didn't realize, but I felt like I was comparing apples to oranges when I looked at this.
Exactly, so that's why,
Yeah,
Oh,
Betsy, that's why Betsy and Kathleen went through the exercise of
Yeah,
breaking it out,
everything-
price per mowing, because it was an apples and oranges, and that's part of my frustration, is that we put this bid out as to try and get an apples to apples price, and that's not what we got. So,
I mean, I know it's timely, this is why, I mean, the way I saw this, when I looked at this yesterday, I kind of thought, I mean, the town should just reject both of these and do it again, because this doesn't,
reject both of them.
both bids, this doesn't tell me anything.
Well,
And so
Eric's bid is accurate, I believe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's no, well, in that case, we only have one bid.
Which is,
Well,
I
not
brought that up already in the meeting, I mean,
Yeah.
if we were going strictly by the rules of bidding for contract, we would not accept Jesse's because it doesn't have the information we requested. I'm not saying we should do that because, it's what it is. I don't know what the circumstances are, I don't know why that happened, but yes, you're right, I mean,
And then what happens if we reject both bids? Based on the fact, my understanding is that we can, the
yes,
Cemetery Commission, do that, and then what happens?
we would have to put it out to bid
To
again.
bid again.
Yes. So,
Unfortunately, again, the clock's ticking on spring here.
yeah, and I mean, I'm guessing either or both of them would be happy to go ahead and do what we want them to on a
Per diem or whatever.
I mean, if it's the preference of this board to go ahead and accept the bid as it's presented based on the recommendation of the Cemetery Commission, I'm not gonna argue that. I just think it's the wrong way to go about it because the whole idea was to try and go about this the right way, and this does not feel like the right way to me. So, I feel like this has been manipulated, not necessarily intentionally, but, more than a couple years in a row, we've been fighting this same issue, and it's very frustrating. So, and I know that's not an issue you've been dealing with.
Right,
So
and I think, I don't know if manipulate, I mean, I kind of don't like the word manipulate.
Well,
because
but
we
that's how.
always try and make sense.
I know, no, and I'm.
Of the numbers that came in and.
Yep. Again,
translate them into something we could evaluate.
that's not directed at you, Betsy. Please accept that. Not.
Okay.
clearly not at you. It's been an issue we've been dealing with on an ongoing basis, and it's been very frustrating. That's a term that I personally would use for how this has been done for several years running. So, if anybody wants to make a motion on it, that's fine. If we want to table it, we can table it. However we want to approach it.
It seems like we're down to a fairly clear choice. Either we,
Accept.
or we table and bring the parties together and attempt to resolve that in some way. Or, number 3, we put it all back out to bid again. But I would point out again, time constraints.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, even though I know you didn't look at or you kind of just discarded the third bid, how was that done in the same format as Eric's?
It was very thorough, yes,
Very
and it was
thorough.
done in the same format as Eric's, with actually even a little bit more
There was a third.
breakdown.
Right,
So
I mean,
it
he
was-
came to the bid opening, but
The
as I
only,
recall, he had to do some explaining about how he filled out the form as well.
I wasn't there for some of that discussion, but the other issue that was present in that bid was that he did not currently have workers' compensation.
Oh, right, okay.
We have those on record from both Eric and Jesse, so we're,
And he didn't want to,
and he didn't want to get it without having the bid.
right, because he's a sole proprietor, I guess as a sole proprietor, he's
Not
not
required.
required to have it, and he didn't want to get it unless he was gonna get the job. And we couldn't give him the job, it was a catch-22, we couldn't give him the job without the
Correct,
workers'
for the
comp.
worst.
And so actually Cynthia was in the room at the time and she suggested that based on the numbers that we were looking at, his bid was clearly the highest bid and that if he wanted to take that as an assumption that he wasn't gonna get the job, maybe he didn't want to really get the workers'
Right.
comp.
And our action tonight would be to accept the bid for both the cemetery mowings and the town mowings as
Well,
presented. in
it
this.
would be to award the
The award
contracts
contract.
as recommended by the cemetery commission, which again, I'm not sure what the legalities are of whether we could, technically overrule the cemetery commission if we wanted to. I'm not sure that's a legal glitch that we want to involve ourselves in, but I just want to be clear that chances are this is gonna cost us $768 more than it would otherwise if we had gone with a single bid. And I'm not trying to say that we should, I would be more than happy to have either of these people doing the work. It's not an issue of who's doing the work. I just think it's an issue of how it's been, how the numbers have been worked through by both the parties that are submitting them and by how they're presented, so.
Yeah, it's one of these things where I feel like I don't have
All the information.
all the information,
Yeah.
and I hesitate because, it seems as if Eric understood what was being asked. I just get the feeling that this person didn't understand, and this person has been doing it for quite a while. And I don't know if that's kosher or not, but I just feel like I want to give this person a chance to find out if what he's offering is
Represents
Right.
what he understood from the bid.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it just feels kind of awkward for me not knowing that information.
I guess,
It's-
yeah, I mean, the flip side of that is that, an RFP for a bid is an RFP for a bid, and if you don't understand it and you have questions, you should come and ask your questions. Maybe there weren't questions and this was presented
Well-
this way, but that's not clearly
Yeah.
presented
Right.
in the information that was
Ultimately,
returned
it's,
to us.
it's, you know, the bid was not
Complete.
complete, exactly. And, I mean, you know, on a strict basis of the rules, you know, of the road, that we would simply have to accept the single
bid
bid
that
that
was
was
complete.
complete. But, again,
Yeah,
you know,
I guess, yeah, I know. And that's,
a little more flexible.
it's one of those things where my guess is that, you know, he should have asked. I mean, I think this could be read, like,
Yeah, I
you
think the
know,
unfortunate thing is that
yeah.
it, as far as I know, no, actually, we opened them, so I know that it didn't come with a cover letter that explained what his thinking was.
Right.
So, that,
oh, such as Eric's did, I think, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was just the two bid sheets and the 2 pages, and they were only, on both of them, only the cemetery portions were completed.
Right.
They were completed exactly the same on
Yeah,
both,
Yeah.
both pages.
yeah. I mean, again, if we, were, you know, $768 is not gonna break the bank, and maybe it'll end up being lower if we talk to Eric.
Right,
you know,
I mean,
again-
I guess that probably is, you know, again, speaking personally for myself, that would be my inclination, would be to get the parties together here and attempt to
Try and sort it
try
out.
to sort this out. You've got somebody who's got a long-term experience of taking care of the older, smaller cemeteries and wishes to continue to do so at a reasonable price. And if Eric can work with that, with the rest of the pie.
I think it's a
I
little,
know,
I
I
think
realize-
it's a little
I
unfair
realize-
for us to ask Eric to give us a discount if we're not offering him the contract.
Right, it's a
we
question
offer.
of do we go straight down the line on the rules, or do we attempt to be a little more flexible and negotiable? And that really, that's where we are. I mean, I understand both points.
Yeah,
that-
no,
that
I do
it's very
too.
clear, but it's.
But I think it, my personal feeling is it would be inappropriate for us to ask Eric to give us a reduced price bid when we're not offering him the package that we offered him. You know, not that we can't do that, but I think that's not appropriate because he did what he did accurately. You know, if the cemetery, I mean, there's two other points that I'll make is one, that if we were to accept this as it is, I want it to be perfectly clear that the financial difference in here, i.e. that whatever that is, 360 or 768 would fall squarely on the cemetery commissioners as far as their recommendation is concerned. I'm not going to accept the responsibility for saying, yeah, we should spend that much more money. The other thing is, I guess, if this needs to be sifted through more thoroughly, I don't think that's our responsibility either. I think that's the cemetery commission's responsibility to decide how to manage these bids and come with a clear apples to apples, which I know was the intention of what was done. It's a little incomplete because of the lack of information from Eric as to how he would treat it. Also, do we know for sure that if we change the numbers for Jesse, that his price is going to remain the same? I mean, if he's mowing it only a third as much as he presented on his bid, is he going to offer the same price? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, he actually said he mows those cemeteries, I think, more than,
All the numbers for the cemeteries that he mows were higher than were on the bid sheet.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying is, you know, and we don't know where he came up with those numbers. It may be based on experience, it may be a misreading of the misinterpretation of this. I don't know what that's based on, but,
it could
you
have
know.
been what he mowed, the number of times he mowed last year and.
But he also set Mount Pleasant at a lower number than was requested on the bid, so,
Right, I know, it's,
Can I ask a question? If you
Yes.
accept the bid, say you accepted Jesse's bid and you accept his bid, he's bid for that amount of time, you accept his bid, and he mows that amount of times, how much more money is that?
a significant amount more. I mean, it's the difference
So-
between,
But Eric would probably be mowing, if he's mowing it, Eric would also be mowing it if it actually needs
Be mowed 8 times. Eric would be mowing it eight
Eight
times
times.
also, and so his actual number
yeah,
would
I mean,
be,
again, the
would be
frustrating
higher
part
also.
is, here we
Yeah.
are all speculating about what might happen if,
Right.
what happens.
Right.
You know, that's the
we
whole
should
idea,
know
is that
and
we've
not
got
have to
we've
mow
got an
anything.
RFP, you know? That's why we have this, so,
What would happen if you just based it by the price per
Per-
mowing
you see,
cost?
that's-
Who has the lowest cost per price per mowing?
That's,
well, that's what
Right,
it was
well,
based on.
that's another
Eric's
bidding,
are,
that's another bidding process.
Eric's are a little
that we should
bit,
present it.
my recollection is Eric's, well, I've got it right here, but Eric's are a little bit more for the mowing on some of them, but significantly less for the cleanup on
Oh.
most of them. So it's, again, it's not an apples to apples comparison,
Right.
so.
yeah, I guess, I mean, again, that's, I was thinking the same thing, that rather than having the number of mowings, it should be, what's your price per mowing per property?
And it varies between,
You know-
one does it for 75, one does it for 120, but then one does one for 400 and one does one for 500, so it's,
Right, and as we discovered when we just added those up, it was a relatively close number, but then when we sifted out by the number of actual mowings, but, you know, the price on cleanup is significantly different.
Right.
You know, one of them is 140 and the other one is,
Yeah, they are,
Jesse's cleanup numbers were, because we did the math on his, was 3,500 for both spring and fall total. And I don't know if Eric's
It's-
because Eric actually altered, he made up his own sheet also. And
Yeah.
he broke spring and fall
Oh.
out separately.
well, as did Jesse,
As did
but he
Jesse,
just
right.
put the
Yeah,
line through
He did it
there.
on, yeah.
1150.
So, you know,
Yeah,
I
it's-
mean, on one, it's the difference between, you know, $140 and $500. The next one, it's $140 and $600. The next one, it's $105 and $400. The next one, it's $160 and $850. And the next one,
Right. I'm sorry, I'm not.
He's adding those up, so another,
Oh, you're adding
them
up,
up,
right.
and then, yeah.
the next one is 420 versus 1150. I mean, that's,
Yeah, those are,
are
that was
big
another thing that
differences.
just kind of totally threw me off.
well, and I guess that's the other question, Betsy, and I don't know. Did your numbers for, because it would appear to me that if we added that in as a factor,
Yeah, I don't know whether, I guess we did not add.
include spring and fall cleanup in that?
Well, we have just, we did figure out Jesse's, and I don't know that we have, how do we figure out I don't have what Eric's total for spring and fall cleanup equaled.
Right, I mean, there's,
175.
was there I did not see the RFP itself, was there a clear scope of work, and just the way the price is?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it was, there was the
That's not
RFP,
compensated how
and this
much
this
less
chart
they are.
was part of the RFP.
Yeah, all right.
So, and again, Eric created his own just
Yeah.
so that he had a separate spring and fall
Right,
cleanup so
right.
that he could put it in and.
But the
his
fact that
computer.
they're so much lower, I mean, I'm just wondering how he's perceiving that, the obligations of that.
Were you looking at
Criteria that
Jesse's
they're trying
total
to
of
meet.
9,500 and Eric's 5,500?
Well, just the.
That's
the
because
cleanup.
Jesse has totally different numbers of mowings.
Yeah, okay,
He's mowing way more times than
I see,
The bid
yes,
sheet.
okay, yeah.
listed, that's why those numbers don't, you can't just compare them straight.
I mean, we can do the math on Eric's and find out what the total, and that will give us a clearer idea of what the difference is, because we're certainly not gonna ask Eric to do cleanup on the ones at a reduced price that he's not gonna be mowing. So the total for Eric for cleanup is $965. The total for cleanup for Jesse is,
That's for all 5 cemeteries. That 500,
Yeah,
where's Jesse's?
is that including Mount Pleasant?
that's including Mount Pleasant.
I
McGowan's.
can't believe he's only charging $35 for spring cleanup in a cemetery.
I don't know, I don't know. I mean, he's done it in Mount Pleasant several times, so,
Right, and he's saying $70. Unless there's not any cleanup to do.
well, I think if the fall cleanup is thorough, then the spring cleanup is pretty minimal typically. I mean, that's
We're gonna choose another.
would be my sense, but Eric has done cleanup in Mount Pleasant for 2 or 3 years, so.
Yeah, I mean, the cleanup numbers are very different.
How come,
Like way different.
where do you,
Right,
for
which
this
is
thing
why
that
I
the
raised
commission
the
put
first
out,
one.
you have 1990 for cleanup for Eric McGowan. It's nowhere near that. In this comparison?
It's excluding Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, but it says this is
Right,
just for
yeah,
cleanup.
you're right.
It's 1,990, it's barely breaks 1,000 on here, I think. So that number is wrong.
No, the
If you look, on the cemetery commission's form, it says cleanup, and it has Jesse Amadon at 2350, and it has Eric McGowan at 1990. And just quickly adding up here, excluding Mount Pleasant, it's not even
Especially-
close.
No.
It's not even close to 1990. It's less than 1,000.
Yeah, well, so what we
It's
did
less
was,
than-
what did we do? We
it's
just
500.
we took the mowing number away from, we subtracted the $5,000, how do we do that? The $5,000 for Mount
This was
Pleasant.
gonna be a math quiz.
It is, it's like makes my head spin. We basically subtracted the mowing from the total number, I think is what we simply did.
It's $545 different dollars.
Yeah.
So, if you,
And what would Jesse's be?
it's $23.50,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah,
I mean,
3,
I'm
8,
assuming.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, yeah. Yeah, so that 1990 on Eric's is way off by $1,500.
Difficult. 545 equals
Read my abacus.
2365, which leaves us with a difference of 4165, 4165 minus 2165, 2,000. That leaves us with a $2,000 difference in the prices.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's accurate or not, but I have to say, I think this needs to be rehashed by the cemetery commission, and I'm sorry to throw that back at you, but, we need to have a,
So we need to turn this somehow translate this to apples and apples.
yeah.
That, and plus the math is wrong.
just- Yeah, I mean,
It's way off.
this number is way
Yeah.
off, so
Okay.
how that.
All right, so back over again. I mean,
So-
like I said, we did it sitting here the other afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to,
And you need to have this homework done by tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, the reality
that is
is,
the reality is
we
that we're
sort of need a special
looking at spring.
meeting probably from us in order to confirm this, so, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if it can be done, why don't you, would you mind touching base with Cynthia tomorrow?
Yeah.
And sort of see,
Sure.
because maybe she might also be able to help, she's very good with numbers, and might be able to help clarify exactly
Yeah.
to get an apples to apples, and then go from there.
Okay,
Does that sound fair? So we're gonna table it for now,
okay,
okay?
okay.
Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah.
Sorry to
Thank you.
put you through such an exercise.
Who knew it would be so hard? Who knew being a cemetery commissioner was gonna be so
With math, well, you, math.
Now you're sharing the headache with us, Julie.
Cemeteries, they're such peaceful places.
Very
My
few,
phone started
very few
ringing like
complaints
the
coming
next
out of
day.
the residents.
What's that?
Very few complaints coming out of the residents.
Of the cemetery.
Yes.
Right, but from elsewhere, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
All right,
All right,
thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for your time.
Okay,
We'll get back to you.
go ahead. Okay. Well, that put us squarely behind schedule, so let's fly through what we can. Sewer and water credit approval and change in allocation, Mount Paul location memo included in packet. And do you have any input into this, Laura, or just what we have in the packet?
I mean, basically, they have requested the minimum charge for the vacant lot. And a credit due to the fact that they were billed for the first quarter of 2016,
Yeah,
And the building was down.
and the building was already gone.
Seems-
And that gives them the reservation basically for future development if so. Didn't indicate there were any plans to do so.
okay, so the first one is actually the landmark one, it looks like to me.
Oh,
Sorry, that was my, let's see, okay. Yeah, okay, so where? Yeah, no, I have that, but where'd you get that?
That was
I don't
sitting
think-
underneath this, yeah, go
I don't think I have
ahead. That's the,
New approval from, because the building was demolished and there's no meter. So this is basically what Laura just told us?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and do that one since it's,
Okay.
since you just discussed it. So if you want to make a
Mhm.
motion.
Yep. Let's see, firstly, and this is regarding 3 Bellows Falls Road. I move, let's see, because of the demolition of Mountain Paul's, I guess I would move that there's a reduction in allocation to the minimum of 1 ERU for both water and sewer for that property, and also to credit $740.60 for the first quarter of January 2006, January through March 2016.
That will second that.
It's been moved and seconded to do what Steve just said and Laura recorded, which basically means reducing the allocation at 3 Bellows Falls Road to its minimum and refunding the charges that were incurred during the time when the building was no longer standing. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, etiquette, what did you just turn that off at the street? All
Yeah.
set?
Yeah. Okay, and then we need another one, which is
This is-
that one.
That's it.
This is Landmark requesting, because they're building a new,
And it's a two-part motion.
I guess those are both two separate motions.
They're two separate motions, all right. I will make the first motion being, we increase the allocation for water and sewer from 315 GPD to to 500 GPD for parcel number 707-04-33, where they will be building a new team room, concession stand, and spectator area for a new athletic field at Landmark College.
Second?
Okay, second, yep.
It's been moved and seconded to approve an increase in allocation for Landmark College as stated. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will further make a motion that we approve the connection and allocation of water and sewer for 500 GPD. This is on a newly subdivided parcel that will be the new location of the Facilities Operation Building at Landmark College.
Okay, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a new allocation for a 500 gallon per day allotment at the new facilities at Landmark College. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Corporate resolution, oh, okay. Table this one until next, oh, okay. So we didn't do an adjustment to the agenda, but this Edwald Fund corporate resolution is not yet prepared. So we will table that until the next meeting. The town manager's report, the main thing is just that Chris Fellows has taken a full-time firefighting position for the Brattleboro Fire Department. And therefore he has served the town of Putney for 17 years, and most specifically and recently as assistant chief for the past 7+ years. Tom does not intend to refill this position right away, but Chris has submitted his resignation, and Cynthia has accepted, or Tom has accepted it, I guess. And I just would like to congratulate Chris on his new position in Brattleboro and thank him wholeheartedly for his many years of service to Putney, and
Wish him the best in his endeavors. Absolutely.
And I'm sure he will continue to have interaction with Putney Fire, and we appreciate and welcome that. All right, we have a budget status report, which, unless you want to comment on that, we can probably just review that on our own. Cynthia didn't make note to me of anything that's significantly different than, I don't think there's anything surprising, right? Yeah, okay, good. That's what we wanted.
No news is good news.
Yeah. All right, and then old business, the tire pile. Cynthia contacted the state and discussed it with them, and they are sending somebody down to look at the site and help come up with some suggestions for how to proceed from where we are currently. She also said she doesn't know that it's the same person, but she was going to request that that person, if they were the appropriate person, would also go by the site on East Town Farm Road that was brought up at the last meeting, to see. There have been a couple other complaints apparently from other neighbors, and so whether, sort of how the state would become involved.
Right, and if that
they
is
don't
the
know.
appropriate person to be
Exactly.
commenting on that.
So if not, it sounds like that this person will be able to sort of guide Cynthia where she should take it next. So, as far as I know, that's all we're doing.
Do we have any warrants?
We do have some warrants. Do you have anything else, Laura, that you know of that we need to be looking at? This packet, that must be.
Oh, one for Cynthia.
Yeah. So there's, yeah, 3 there. Okay, musical warrants.
Everybody gets paid.
That's for you, Laura. And these are the mowing bid documents, Laura, just so you
This one here.
have those. And unless anybody objects, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to, make motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Screws.